In tonight's headlines, Beijing and Hong Kong condemn Washington's plans to sanction SAR officials over Article 23 legislation. US authorities begin massive operation to remove the wreckage of a collapsed bridge in Baltimore. And horse racing in Macau has run its final furlong as the debt-ridden Jockey Club shuts down next month.
The Foreign Ministry's office in Hong Kong has slammed the United States over plans to impose visa restrictions on SAR officials who were responsible for enacting Article 23 of the Basic Law. In response to remarks from US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who said the legislation could be used to stifle dissent, an office spokesman said Washington often asks others to take medicine when it itself is getting sick. The US should take some time to examine itself and take stock of the illusion of judicial independence, he added. He also condemned the latest Hong Kong Policy Act report by the US State Department, saying it was a farce and filled with lies. The SAR government also hit back at what it called untruthful remarks, slanders, and smears. A spokesman stressed that officials would not be intimidated by the despicable behavior which violates international law. The US should stop interfering in China's internal affairs, he added. Sachin Kadvi, Cable News.
Hong Kong will start banning a range of disposable plastic tableware from the 22nd of next month. As the city observes Earth Day, eateries can no longer distribute polystyrene containers, plastic straws and stirrers, as well as cutlery. Taking to the airwaves this morning, Environment Chief Tse Chin-wan admitted that more than 80% of restaurants have yet to stock up on substitute products. He emphasized that there will be a 6-month grace period so that businesses will have ample time to adapt. The reaction from the catering industry has been lukewarm so far, unlike the widespread opposition to the municipal waste charging scheme. Tse was once again asked if that scheme will be implemented as scheduled on August 1st, after it was pushed back twice. He said much depends on the trial, which will start next Monday at 14 premises, including shopping malls and tenement buildings. Data gathered from the pilot scheme will then be analyzed before a final decision is made, the minister added. Property management firms were earlier briefed on operational arrangements. While households will be given free designated rubbish bags, the quantities will be limited to make the trial run as realistic as possible. Tse said the trial is voluntary, so a number of households are expected to not participate. He also revealed that food waste now makes up 1/3 of all waste sent to the city's landfills, even though much of it can be recycled. Authorities will now step up the installation of food waste recycling bins in the coming months, starting at public housing estates. Janice Yu, Cable News.
A massive container ship remains stranded in the US state of Maryland, days after ramming into a bridge, which collapsed upon impact, killing 6 workers. Authorities have been able to recover the bodies of only 2 workers so far, as the conditions in the water were deemed too dangerous for divers to operate in. Officials have now decided to first lift the collapsed bridge off the vessel so it can set sail from the site. The largest crane in the US East Coast has been deployed to the scene to deal with the structure, which weighs thousands of tons.
At this time, there is no indication of active releases from the vessel, nor of the presence of materials that are hazardous to human health in the water. However, monitoring is ongoing, and we will work through the unified command to report and review and be transparent of any results from this monitoring as they become available.
Environmental concerns aside, it is imperative that the removal operation is completed as soon as possible. That's because shipments in and out of the port of Baltimore, one of the busiest in the United States, remain suspended. The gravity of the matter even prompted US President Joe Biden to visit Baltimore next week to inspect the operation's progress. It remains unknown whether he will meet with representatives of an advocacy group, which is demanding better protection for immigrant workers following the tragedy.
The time is now for President to deliver for these workers who, together with the U.S. brothers and sisters, are building this country.
Today,
Raymond Yang, KBO News.
right here, right now.
For the first time in his 11-year papacy, Pope Francis skipped the traditional Good Friday procession at the Colosseum in Rome. The pontiff was absent from the Way of the Cross ceremony, which reenacted the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. But the decision appeared to be made at the 11th hour, as the papal chair was taken away just before the ceremony started. In a statement, the Vatican said the Holy Father wants to preserve his health for other engagements during Easter. The 87-year-old did attend a 2-hour prayer service at St. Peter's Basilica earlier in the day. Francis has recently struggled with respiratory illnesses during the winter season. Russian journalist Antonina Favorskaya, who also goes by the last name of Kravtsova, has been put under pretrial detention until late May. A district court in Moscow granted the order over her alleged links to an anti-corruption foundation started by late political activist Alexei Navalny. Navalny died last month in mysterious circumstances while serving an 18-year term in an Arctic penal colony. A spokeswoman for the foundation said that Russian authorities have targeted Favorskaya because she was doing her job as a journalist. She had previously covered the trials of Navalny and other political dissidents. Favorskaya could spend 6 years behind bars if she is convicted of involvement with the extremist group.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan has repeatedly said that he expected the United States to cut interest rates this year, alleviating pressure on the asset market. But the U.S. Federal Reserve insists that no timetable has been set, even as prices moderated last month.
The report that came out this morning is pretty much in line with our expectations. So core PCE, as you mentioned, is at 2.8% on a 12-month basis. Headline is at 2.5%. That's what we were expecting.
Powell went back to his usual line, saying interest rates would not be reduced unless authorities are confident that inflation is moving down to 2% on a sustained basis.
We've been saying that we expect inflation to move down to 2%, but on a path that is sometimes bumpy. So the question then is, are those just bumps, or are they something more than bumps? Now, the real question is the possibility of a recession elevated at the current time? And I would say no. I don't see forecasters disagreeing with that.
There was a party-like atmosphere at Taipa Race Course in Macau, as locals bade farewell to 44 years of thoroughbred racing in the former Portuguese colony. 14 races were scheduled for the day's program, with a mix of turf and dirt surfaces.
非常興奮，即使個場地未如理想啦，但係我覺得係一個好歷史性嘅一刻啦，咁所以嚟見證下咯。
Among those in the audience was Mr. Ip, who was excited to witness this historical moment. He admitted horse racing has lost its attractiveness as there are plenty of entertainment options these days. Mr. Chan, a longtime horse racing fan, was one of those who witnessed the opening of Taipa Race Course in 1989. Showing off a souvenir, he recalled the fond memories of the soon-to-be old times. The Macau Jockey Club only had its racing license extended by 24 years in 2018. But the permit was abruptly revoked in January, with the government saying that racing activities could not generate economic and social benefits. The club has been under financial trouble, accumulating debt of over 2.5 billion petakas. Around 570 employees, including trainers and stable staff, would be laid off. 300 or so horses will be relocated overseas over the next 12 months, while the premises will be vacated and returned to the government. The SAR government has already stated that the land on which the racecourse sits will be rezoned for other purposes. Janice Yu, Cable News.